At this point, you are doing great and you are quite familiar with Tailwind at this point. Don't worry, it is just a matter of time to practice and to meet different components, different classes of Tailwind, as we are going to do during the following classes, during this specific class, and the following projects that you will probably be reproducing and creating. So during this class, we are going to meet and get in touch with Inertia.js, and by the way, with Vue.js, because remember, Inertia.js works over Vue.js as a possibility, and this is part of our current stack. So what we are going to do is to create, let's say, navigation bar where the user can log in and can register, and we're going to show the logo or the mark of our project. In fact, this is going to be the mark of Laravel Jetstream, and we are going to take advantage of the different components that already come with Inertia.js that we can use to make our life and our development process easier. So let's just start with that. We need to go to our browser, and there we are going to search again for inertiajs.com. In the documentation that we have exactly here, we can verify the different components that we have. We have pages, we have the title and the meta tags, we have links, etc. For now, even when we are going to explore some other of those, we are going to focus on links and on title and meta tags. So here, basically, we can use a tag that is called head. This is exactly the name, as you can see here. Head is going to define the meta tags, the information that we can create for our browser, essentially to show, for example, the title that you can see here, all of that for your specific application, for your portfolio. So here we have a shorthand that we can use to specify the title from every single page that we have. So we can essentially use this component, but be sure that once you are using this, you are importing the definition. We already are a little familiar with that, but don't worry, once again, we are going to take care of that. And the other one component, which is pretty important and pretty useful, is the link. The link is, well, essentially a link in a single page application. Normally, even the title here, the head that we have, and the links are pretty complicated things in a single page application. Change the title and the meta tags on different applications because this is a single page application. This is, let's say, only one page. So how can we change that? Well, this is a headache in the regular way that we usually developed in the previous times a single page application. But now with Inertia, this is just a matter of including dynamically this specific tag. And this is essentially the same to preserve the history of the browser, to load the changes, to show how it changed, essentially preserving a single page application experience using links. So we create a link with this, with the corresponding href going to a specific route if we need it. And Inertia.js is going to take care of all of the details for us, preserving, as I said, the experience of a single page application. And additionally, thanks to Jetstream, Laravel Jetstream, we are going to take advantage of a helper of the routes. From the frontend, from the JavaScript, we are going to take access or get access to our routes, the backend routes. So that's awesome. We can save a lot of time and effort with it. So let's go ahead and jump in with this. So let's start modifying a little bit our welcome view. So let's go to resources, JS, and this, of course, inside pages, our welcome.view page. So essentially, we are going to add a new component here after the template, which is head. It is very important to use the H in uppercase, and we can close it here and specify the title is gonna be, let's say, welcome. Now, if we get sure to start our server and npm robots, just in case that you don't have it running at this moment, try again, php artisan serve, and in a different window or tab, you can use npm run watch to get the changes into account, compile every single change that you have in your view. So if we go to our browser again, in our local IP address, and we open the console into our browser, we can see something is failing. Not exactly this. This is an expected error. This is basically coming from browser side. Don't care about that. But here it is saying, hey, I failed to resolve a component called head. So please make sure that it exists or you imported the definition or something like that. So yeah, essentially we are using it, but as you may remember from the documentation, we need to import definition, exactly like this. Where should we go and import the definition? Well, we have the scripts here, and as you can see, we are importing different components. In this case, coming from view, and well, we can do essentially the same coming from the inertia definition per view in the version 3. So in this case, we are using only head. We are importing the definition of head, and we need then to use it exactly here. So if we save, and of course our compiler takes care of that, we can go back here and refresh. So we don't have now the error, and as you can see here, the title changed to welcome, and it is automatically being attached with the SPA portfolio, the name of our real application and the title that we specified. So if you go to a different page later for the login, the register, or something that you create, this is going to say, hey, this is the welcome, this is the admin page, and whatever that you prefer, and you can even receive that information from your backend. Perfectly functional. Now that we are talking about receiving information from the backend, how can we do that? Well, essentially, we can use properties into our component when we are defining this. For example, here we have the can login and the can register. And how are we getting those? Well, we are sending them from the backend, but using Inertia. Inertia is playing in the frontend and in the backend as a bridge. So those are coming directly from our routes on web.php, and there we are sending can login, can register, and even the Laravel and the PHP version. We can just take care here and remove those because we are not using and will not use this in the future. But here we are sending the can login and can register, which are basically booleans, as you see, saying, hey, there exists a route called login or not. And the same for the register. And we are sending this. This is very important. It is not returning the regular view from Laravel, but it is rendering a welcome page, which is, of course, the pages application, the pages folder from the Inertia helper. So once we have this, we can be sure, once we declare these properties, we can use this along of our project, along of our welcome view, in this case, taking care of the corresponding definition, if our boolean, if our objects, strings, etc. So let's go now and make this a little complicated. We are going to create our let's say, navigation bar. So I'm just going to copy here and paste for you a piece of code with that because I don't want to waste our time issuing all of that. But of course, I'm going to explain you this right now. So let's to keep it the indentation here. And essentially what we are doing is creating a new row, and notice that this time we are using grid, not flex. And yeah, we have those possibilities. In this time, we are saying that we have rows or we have columns. Essentially, in this case, we have two different columns. So that means that this specific div is separated in two columns. So what we have inside is the column 1. You can see this is the first one, and this is the column 2. And interestingly, the column 2 will have inside different components. Now, what we have in the first column, we have an application mark. And you may say, hey, there don't exist a jet application mark tag. You're right. This is a specific component that we need to import into our JavaScript, basically in the script tag that we have. And where is this component coming? Well, essentially, once we have something started with jet, even when it is not mandatory, we are agreed that this comes from the Jetstream component. So that means that inside the Jetstream folder, we will have something called application mark, which is exactly what we have here. And application mark is just an SVG with a mark, with the logo, the image of Laravel Jetstream, and we are going to use that into our own project. Then we are specifying a height, and we are saying that this is going to be centered into our space, in this case, in this specific column, using a width of auto. We close the tag, and now we can go to the second column, and it appears a set of structures. A view if. This is view. This is not inertia. This is view handling the visualization of basically the capability to show or not a component here. And here we are using the variables that we are receiving, the properties that we are getting from our backend, can login and can register. So if we can login, which means that exists a variable or basically a route to log in a user, so we can show all of the second column. But inside we are going to have a different if. If there already exists a validated user, an authenticated user, so we are going to show the access to the dashboard. If not, be else, you can see we have an if and an else here. This is the first if and the second if here. We have the else saying, if that is not a user authenticated, so we are going to show two different links, the login and the register. Now, those properties are automatically managed by Inertia from Laravel. So we have access to the different components here. If that exists, a validated user, an authenticated user through a specific login session, so we are going to get access to the user into the properties of our page. So we can use this every time. Only if it is defined, we can go. If not, we are going to show this. And now, let's just stop in those components because link is, well, the component that I already showed you on the documentation of Inertia. Here, we are defining the href and notice the column here because we are going to evaluate an expression, a JavaScript expression, say, hey, please use as the href the route called dashboard. And we have essentially the same for the login in the case of the login route and the same for the register. Both of them are calculated, so we are using JavaScript expressions here. So that means that if there exists a route called dashboard, and this exists thanks to Laravel Jetstream, we are going to show the route to go there and follow this link. And then we have some stars. This is a small text with the underline, and we have essentially the same in the other cases for register and for login. So recapitulating, repeating this, we have the application mark. If we can log in, so we are going to show the second column. And if there is already a user, so we are going to show the dashboard. If it is not, so we are going to show the login or the register elements. And notice here finally that the if is only shown if the can register is set to true. So we are using this second variable that we have here. So this is everything, but you may imagine that this is going to fail because we are using two different components. Application mark, that we already know that this is exactly here, application mark, and the link. So let's go to the bottom, and the link comes, fortunately for us, from the exactly same definition. How do you know that? Well, essentially on the documentation, you can go to the links documentation and you can see that this comes exactly for him. Normally, this is going to come from the view tree definition for Inertia, but just in case, make sure to follow the documentation and verify that. So again, as we have two different components coming from the same location, we can use those branches here and use head and the link. Of course, if you define and decide to duplicate the line and use link here instead of here, this is going to work exactly the same, but let's make this simple and keep it like this. So once we have imported the definition, we can go back and use it directly. And now we need to resolve the definition of application mark. When will this come from? Well, this is from our actual location. So we need to import, and this is going to be get application mark. This is what we have. This needs to match with the tag that we are using here, just changing the case, using dashes, in this case, get application mark, as you can see. And here, this is going to come from our current application. So we are using a NAT, and then this is going to be on the Jetstream folder. There it is, and the component is called application mark. Perfect. And once we imported the definition, we need to use it here. So at this point, if everything is okay, we should be able to go back to our project and refresh. And if we go to the top, there it is. We have the application mark here, and it looks like we are already logged in. So we have a link to the dashboard, and if we click here, there it is. We are now in the dashboard. Of course, if we go here and log out, this is essentially what we comes out of the box with Laravel Jetstream. We have the buttons for login and for register. We can go to login. You can see this is a single page application. Everything is loading pretty faster. And if we go back, we can essentially log in and get exactly the same. So we have now using all of those components, the link, the head, and of course the components even that come with Laravel Jetstream. But what about our own component? So let's to create our own component just to finish with the class and import it to reutilize a set of, let's say, styles that we have into our current sections. So currently we have divided our views in different sections, and all of those have something in common. For example, the px of 72, or basically, as you can see, consistently px 72 and py of 10. So we want to reutilize all of that along of our project. So here we can change all of these for let's say, our own section. So we are going to call this section, and we can remove the padding X and the padding Y because we are going to specify either. We have section, and of course, once we are closing, it should be section. And now let's verify this here, section, section, all of the sections that we have, all of them, and we are going to change them from the uppercase with the A's. Now, if we go back and refresh, you may imagine this is going to fail because there does not exist a section component here. So we need to create it because does not exist is going to be our first component, as you can see, and then we can import it. So let's go to create our components, and I already created a components folder. If you don't have it, just create it. At this side, we are going to create a new file, which is going to be section.view. This is a view component. And there we are going to have just a template. And inside the template, we are going to have a regular section for HTML5. And inside the section, we are going to have anything, everything that the user puts inside. In this case, our put inside, we are going to have the slot. So let's keep it this simple this way. And once we have slot, this is like a magic tag. That means that we are going to have everything that is inside this section component is going to be inside here. So it's like copying and pasting, but we are removing the requirements to specify the px and the py in every component that we have. So let's remove all of them, px and py, the same here, px and py, and finally here we have px and py. So we are avoiding to reutilize all of that, and we can essentially change it. So if we go back to our section, we just need to specify those classes saying px and py. Of course, if I remove this, let's keep it empty, and let's go to import that definition. So this is going to be pretty similar to this. We have just section. This will come from our own components folder, and of course the name is section. Be sure to preserve the uppercase here, and of course we are going to use section here as well. So if we go back here and refresh, there is no error anymore. It means that we have the section that we are using, and the result is, of course, there is not padding X, there is not padding Y, but we are going to change automatically that padding to all of our components because we are already reutilizing it. So if we paste it here, px of 22 and py of 10, let's see what happened. Let's refresh, and there it is, exactly the same. We just refactored our code, avoiding to repeat some styles and using it directly into our own component. So yeah, this is exactly all what we need. You already have the capability and you already know how to create and use your own components, and under what scenarios we are going to do that. We are going to do that several times during the course as well in the future classes. And additionally, you know how to use the components that already come with Jetstream and with Inertia. So once we know that, let's go to the following class to go beyond this and practice a little about Tailwind and of course Inertia to make much deeper on it. See you there.